The Siege of Tsingtao, 1914, when Japan and Britain united to fight Germany in East Asia. At the outset of World War I, a new chapter of global military history unfolded, not in the muddy trenches of Europe, but on the eastern shores of Asia, in a strategic port called Tsingtao, now known as Qingdao. This was the stage for the only major World War I campaign fought in East Asia, where the forces of Imperial Japan and Great Britain confronted the entrenched German Empire in China. Background: Tsingtao and Germany's strategic interests. Since 1898, Germany had leased the area of Tsingtao from the Qing dynasty and transformed it into the main base of the Imperial German Navy in East Asia. The port became a symbol of German imperial strength in the Far East, complete with modern fortresses, warship facilities, and advanced infrastructure. Kaiser Wilhelm II referred to Tsingtao as the Gibraltar of the East. But when World War I broke out in August 1914, Germany's position in Asia became vulnerable. Japan, as an ally of Great Britain through the Anglo-Japanese alliance of 1902, saw a strategic opportunity to expand its influence in the region. Under the terms of this alliance, Japan issued an ultimatum to Germany to surrender Tsingtao. When Germany ignored the ultimatum, Japan declared war on August 23, 1914. Military forces, the besieged and the besiegers. The German garrison in Tsingtao was led by Captain Alfred Meyer-Waldeck. The force was limited, around 4,000 troops, including sailors from warships and naval infantry. They were equipped with heavy artillery and took advantage of a modern defensive system, including trenches, coastal guns, and landmines. On the offensive side, Japan deployed nearly 60,000 troops from the 18th Division and the 2nd Fleet, supported by warships and aircraft. Japan sent large warships such as Kongo, Kurama, and several cruisers. Britain contributed around 1,500 troops, including the Lancashire Fusiliers and logistical units, a largely symbolic gesture to honor the alliance. The siege begins, October in flames. The formal siege of Tsingtao began on October 31, 1914, but the naval blockade had been in place since early September. Japan used its naval superiority to cut off German supply lines and prevent escape by sea. On land, Japanese artillery relentlessly bombarded German positions. Japan also made military history. They used airplanes to drop bombs on German positions, one of the earliest uses of aircraft in modern warfare. The continuous artillery and air bombardment gradually destroyed Germany's major forts, including Fort Iltis and Fort Moltke. Despite having technically superior defenses, the Germans were no match for the sheer scale of the Japanese attack.
The final days, collapse and surrender. On November 6, 1914, Japanese and British forces launched their final assault on the German defensive trenches. Fierce fighting erupted in the darkness, with hand grenades and close-quarter combat. Japanese forces suffered heavy casualties but managed to breach the German lines. Finally, on November 7, 1914, Captain Meyer-Waldeck realized that further resistance would be futile and lead to unnecessary loss of life. He chose to surrender. Around 3,600 German troops were taken prisoner and sent to internment camps in Japan. Some would remain there until the war ended in 1919. Impact and geopolitical consequences. Japan's victory at Tsingtao solidified its position as a new major power in East Asia. Japan occupied all former German territories in China, including Pacific islands such as the Marshall and Mariana Islands. However, Japan's occupation of Tsingtao ignited tensions with China, which felt that its rightful territory had been seized. This issue would erupt at the 1919 Versailles Conference, where Chinese delegates were disappointed that the territory was not returned. Their frustration gave rise to the May 4th movement, a landmark in modern Chinese nationalism. Unique aspects of this siege: the largest colonial battle in East Asia during World War I, one of the earliest uses of military aircraft in combat, a clear demonstration of the effectiveness of the Anglo-Japanese alliance. The siege marked Japan's first large-scale amphibious operation, offering valuable experience later used in the Second Sino-Japanese War and the Pacific War. Conclusion: the rise of Japanese dominance in Asia. The siege of Tsingtao was more than just the capture of a port. It symbolized a shift in the global balance of power. Japan, which had only recently modernized its military after the Meiji Restoration, was now capable of defeating a European empire on Asian soil. This victory signaled that Asia was no longer merely a colonial playground, but a region where rising powers would shape the 20th century. For Germany, the loss of Tsingtao marked the end of its imperial ambitions in East Asia. For Britain, it was proof of its alliance with Japan, but it also sparked concerns over Japan's growing regional ambitions. And for the world, the Siege of Tsingtao was an early chapter in the long story of geopolitical conflict in East Asia, echoes of which would be heard again in the wars of the decades to follow. If you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten military history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another video.